Yeah. I'd like to welcome everybody to my podcast. I am your gracious host, Jupiter 9, baby. And in today's podcast, we're going to talk about Sly Green, the infamous Sly Green, you know what I'm saying? The boogeyman of Buffalo, New York. Know what I mean? Everybody who's from the city know about Sly Green, man. And if you live through those times, the Sly Green era, you know what I'm saying? You know that he had the city on lock, yo. Like, he had the city on lock, man. Now, when Sly Green was doing this thing, man, you know what I'm saying? I was a young shorty, you know what I'm saying? Going to school like every young kid was doing back in the day, you know what I mean? Now, when Sly Green was doing this thing, you talking about, you know what I mean, like mid 80s, early 90s, you know what I'm saying? He had like a 6 or 7 year run, you know what I'm saying, before he got hemmed up and shit and caught his sentence that he caught, you know what I mean? But those were some crazy times in the city, you know what I mean? Like, I remember, you know, right before, you know, Sly Green was doing his thing, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm young when Sly Green was doing things. I'm probably like 9, 10, maybe 11, maybe, when he, you know, his name was ringing bell in Buffalo, New York. You know what I'm saying? There's been many alleged stories about Sly Green, you know what I'm saying? You know, there were stories of him, you know, shooting people in broad day, right in the face, you know what I mean? Plenty of stories, man. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, when Sly Green was doing this thing, man, in that time, in that era, you know what I'm saying? I was a young shorty, and I remember when the LA boys, you know what I'm saying? I remember being a shorty, and I remember being in situations to where, like, Mom Dukes wanted to buy me some LA Raiders gear, like, you know what I'm saying? Now, mind you, I always been a Buffalo Bills fan, you know what I'm saying, ever since I was probably like 5 or 6 years old. So I wouldn't really want to be rocking no LA Raiders gear anyway, you know what I mean? So I guess Mom, she didn't understand, you know what I'm saying, how big of a Bills fan I was, you know what I'm saying, until, you know, I started getting a little bit older and whatever. But I remember she wanted to buy me some LA Raiders gear, you know what I'm saying? And I told her, I'm like, nah, you can't rock that, because, you know, Sly Green and them boys, that's what they were rocking. You know what I mean? That's how, you know, they were moving. That was their uniform back in the day. It was the LA's Raiders gear. It's still for the LA boys, because he had, you know, allegedly had connections in LA, you know, with the drugs and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So they were rocking the LA Raiders gear. But, you know, there's stories, you know what I'm saying? His brother was the one who was the real terror. Like, you know what I'm saying? I believe he was murdered in Central Park or something like that. You know what I'm saying? He was sitting in Central Park and somebody shot his car up or something like that. I forgot his brother's name, but there was an incident. Like, he was the one that was like the real terror, the real terror. Like, he was like the one, you know, causing havoc in the city. You know what I'm saying? I remember one time he threw a brick through our house, allegedly, man. Know what I mean? And I remember my mom's, you know what I'm saying, she always kept like a shotgun and handguns, you know what I'm saying? Because for a hot minute she was, you know, a single mom raising me and shit like that. Cause Pops, he left, he bailed out, you know what I mean, when I was like 1 or 2 or something like that, you know what I'm saying? So he dipped, and Mom was like left to raise me by herself for a hot minute. But then my mom's met my sister's pops, you know what I'm saying? But that's a long story and whatever, but you know what I mean? But at the time they were together, my mom's and my sister's pops, you know what I'm saying? I call him Red. We call him Red, you know what I mean? So his brother allegedly threw a brick through our house. So Mom, she grabbed the pump, like, you know what I mean? And just, she didn't play. Like, she didn't give a fuck who it was. If somebody was putting her kids in danger or her family in danger, she would go crazy. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's how she rocked. And back then, that's how you had to rock. You had to have some type of shotgun in your house at that time, because people were coming through your windows and robbing you and shit like that. Shit was crazy back in the east side of Buffalo. You know what I mean? Shit was crazy. But Sly Green, he was a crazy motherfucker, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? I heard stories about Sly Green. Like I'm saying, if you're from the city, you know who Sly Green is. So boom. So my mom's, after he allegedly threw the brick through our house, my mom's running through with the shotgun. He pulls off quick. For what reason he threw the brick? We like, my mom, she passed away in 2005. You know what I'm saying? Breast cancer, RIP moms. But still to this day, I don't know why he did it. You know what I mean? I don't know if he had beef with my sister's pops, because, you know, he did construction type work, and along with that construction type work, you know what I'm saying, he knew how to fix houses, he knew how to repair houses, he knew how to do anything to a house, like put a roof on it, he knew how to paint a house, you know what I'm saying, he could do plumbing, he could do siding, he can do roofing, he know how to blacktop. Like, this man he was incredible when he was young, man. Like, I seen him put on the whole roof by himself, you know what I'm saying, and he was built like the Hawk, like naturally, like, you know what I mean, never lifted a weight in his life. And when my mom's first met him, my sister's pops, you know what I'm saying, I thought he was the fucking incredible Hawk. This dude was brolic, and he never touched a weight or nothing. Like, that all came from, you know, working roofing and doing that hard labor, you know what I'm saying. He just was built like that because of that, like, you know what I mean. Never touched a weight in his life. I never seen anybody naturally built like that, just from, you know, I guess he just had like crazy good genetics, man. I wish I had his genetics, for real. That's one thing I wish I had from my sister's pop. You know what I'm saying? I didn't want his bad habits, you know. Later on, he got into the drugs and he got mad skinny, lost all his teeth and all that, you know what I mean? But I wish I had his genetics, though. Word. But I don't know if he got into a situation with them or what, but like I said, man, that's how Sly Green brother was. He was just going around terrorizing people. Sly Green as well. Like I said, LA Boys was running things at the time, but if only all caught up with them, you know what I'm saying? I think he ended up catching a RICO charge or something like that, you know what I'm saying? He's been trying to get out of jail for like the fucking longest, and like he's been saying he's innocent on the charges that were thrown at him. I don't know about that, you know what I'm saying? A lot of people say they innocent that's in jail, you know what I mean? But to keep it all the way funky, like, there's a lot of innocent people in jail. Don't get it like twisted. There is some innocent people in jail, but you know, people say anything to get out of jail. That's a fact. You know what I mean? That's a fact. People will say anything to not do time for the crimes that they do. You know, you gotta pay for the type of crimes that you do in society, even if the crimes that you do get smacked on you that you even didn't do, because it's called karma, man. You know what I'm saying? You going around killing people and all that, allegedly. You going around killing people, this, that, and the third, and you don't think that's going to not come back to you. You got to pay some kind of way a debt to society. You know what I'm saying? That's why a lot of times people who are in the streets doing their thing, and they never get caught for a long time. For a long time, Sly Green did not catch any type of charge or nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? For 8 years, he ran the city. He was terrorizing the city, him and his brother. I forgot his brother's name, man. I wish I could remember his brother's name, but, you know, for a long time, they would not, you know what I'm saying, getting caught for nothing. But, you know, if he's saying that these charges that was thrown on him, he shouldn't have had these charges. You know what I mean? It comes back to the negative energy you put out there. You know what I'm saying? And I'll be telling people all the time, you can't be doing negative shit out here and thinking it's not going to catch up with you. You know what I mean? Because it will catch up with you. You can only do dirt for so long until you can't do it no more. You know what I mean? And now you sit in jail the rest of your life. I heard allegedly, like, you know what I'm saying? He's one of the alphabet people. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's never going to see the day of light. So he probably is on the low. You know what I mean? A lot of cats that, you know, were drug bosses back in the day or whatever, they be on the low. You know what I mean? Because they're never gonna see they're never gonna see freedom, and they're never gonna see women anymore. So, a lot of cats turn to, the alphabet people. You know what I'm saying? But, you got to pay for the atrocities that you do in this world. And that Sly Green era did a lot of damage to the city. And this city, still to this day, in the east side of Buffalo, is still recovering from what Sly Green did in the mid 80s and 90s. It's still the east side of Buffalo, still hurting for jobs. You know what I'm saying? It's still, nothing really going on in the east side of Buffalo. No new developments going on. No new businesses going on. There's no jobs, like I said. There's no opportunities on that side. And there's people still strung out of what Sly strung out on drugs of the era of Sly Green and what his LA boys did back in the mid 80s and early 90s. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was a crazy time, because we not New York City, you know what I'm saying? We not mad big. So, for somebody to terrorize a city won't take much, because Buffalo's mad small. Like I said, we not New York City, even though we're the second largest in New York State. But still, you know what I'm saying? It don't take much for somebody to come in like Sly Green and just fucking cause havoc. You know what I'm saying? Population of 250,000 people. It's probably less now, because mad people leaving. You know what I'm saying? Because just the lack of opportunities. Like mad people leaving, going to the South or whatever, including myself. Know what I mean? But I want to get into this interview that Sly Green did, you know what I'm saying, not too long ago. And I want you to hear his side of the story. But me personally, living through that era, you know what I'm saying? He's right where he need to be. That's a fact. You know what I'm saying? But I want you guys to check out this interview. So I'm gonna play the interview.
Yes. Donald Sly Green, one of the most infamous characters in the history of Western New York. Donald Sly Green was convicted of various crimes more than 26 years ago and has been behind bars ever since. He's never been given an opportunity to tell his side of the story here in Western New York. This interview will also talk about some of the things that Donald Sly Green has been doing during his 26 years of incarceration. He has a major concern about the unfair sentencing of African Americans throughout the United States judiciary system. The extent that even the President of the United States, President Barack Obama, has called for a complete overhaul of this system. The federal judiciary system within and throughout this country, as it concerns cases like Donald Sly Green, is a case in point. Donald Sly Green was given more than 4 life sentences plus 115 years. This, to me, is unfair sentencing. And unfair sentencing is a subject matter that has to be discussed when we talk about African Americans in this country. Donald Sly Green will be given an opportunity to tell his side of the story, and you make your own judgment. This is part 1, and part 2 will air next week. And I hope all of you pay close attention, and most of all, have your young people to listen to this interview, and maybe we can save them from some of the perils that have affected the life of Donald Sly Green. This is his opportunity. This is his story. I am the Mighty Oba here on the special edition of The Message. Donald, you all right?
Oh, yes, sir.
All right, Donald Sly Green is with us here today. I want to start by asking you, how did you get involved in what you call the hustle game?
I got involved in the hustle game when I was about 12 years old at a very young age. And I have like 5 brothers and 2 sisters, and my oldest brother was the vice president of a local street gang called Cold Spring Manhattan Lovers. His name was Iceberg. And I had another brother by the name of Gary and another brother by the name of Ronnie. The other brother was too really young to understand what was going on. And what my brother would do, the rest...
This call is from a federal prison.
Me and my other brothers would follow my older brother Iceberg and whatever he done. Now, like I said, at the time I was like 12, My other brother was like, Ronnie was like 11, and Gary, he was like 13 at the time. And so when my brother became a vice president of a gang, then me and my other little brothers would follow behind him, and we would get in the gang. And so as time went on, probably about a year or two as that went on, my brother stopped being in the gang, and he became a hustler. He started hustling in the streets, selling drugs. So he would give me a number like 1 and 1, my other little brother a number 2 and 2, and then Ronnie a number 3 and 3. So if he said 1 and 1, that meant bringing 1 bundle of dope. If he said 2 and 2, that meant bringing 2 bundles of dope from Gary or Ronnie. If he said 3 and 3, that meant Ronnie would bring him 3 bundles of dope. So he stopped being a gang leader, he started being a drug dealer. So as time went on, then he started hustling. He started having girlfriends, and he became a pimp. And so I had an aunt, I got 2 aunts that was prostitutes. And one of them was very pretty, and she used to have a pimp, and she stopped being with her pimp, and she would take me with her. She had a Broham Cadillac at the time. This was a long time ago. I was about 13 now. And what she would do is, she would go out on Chippewa, she would go up in Niagara Falls, and she would prostitute. And what she would do is keep me inside a restaurant, and I would drink orange juice and eat candy bars and stuff like that. And every time she get money, she would bring me the money to hold for her. Then she'd take me all over the city, take me to Niagara Falls, and take me everywhere. I really didn't see anything wrong with any of this because I was so young at the time, and I really didn't understand what was going on. And it was 7 of us, so my mother was kind of young when she had so many kids. So my mother, my grandmother, and my aunt took care of all 7 of us. My grandmother took some of us, my aunt took some of us, and some of us stayed with my mother because my mother was a very young lady at that time, and she was very pretty, but she had 7 kids, so she'd be out, you know, in bars or clubs or something, things like that, and she really didn't have time for 7 kids, I would assume, but she done the best she could under the circumstances. And so as time went on, my older brother, Iceberg, would tell us, the younger brothers, don't never tell on nobody, don't never snitch on nobody. If you see things in the streets, you don't say them, you leave the streets where the streets is at. That's how I got into it.
Now, when did you become what you call street poison?
I became street poison because I like what I saw inside the streets. I admire what I saw inside the streets. I became the streets, and by me being around my aunt and by me being around my older brother, you know, I love the streets. I love what I seen in the streets. And so I began to live in the streets and skip school and, you know, be around my aunt or try to hang around my older brother. And I just became fascinated with the streets because of what the streets represented and what I seen in the streets and through my aunt and my older brother. And my brother was like a local legend at that time in the streets. He made a lot of money. He stayed very well dressed. And, you know, we just wanted to be like our brother. Me and my little younger brothers, we seen what he done, and we just followed behind him, and we wanted to be like him. And so we followed behind him, and everything he did, we tried to emulate, and we tried to do. So I became street poison. I became the streets, I became like the streets, and I became obligated to the streets. You know, and I didn't want to do nothing else but be in the streets because that's what I grew up seeing. My older brother and my aunt in the streets.
Now, Sly, eventually this led to you being charged with certain violations of law.
Yes.
Can you just tell me about those and how did those come into being, what those laws were?
Okay, as I grew older, I got charged. First, I got charged with some guys killed my little brother. So I got charged with the murder of some of the guys that killed my little brother. I went to trial. I proceeded to trial, so I got convicted. And I received 25 to life for the state of New York. And then, about 18 months later, I go on trial for the feds with a 73-count indictment with 32 co-defendants from various cities and states, with a few, 2 Colombians and a guy from another country. I go on trial. They put me on top of the indictment, and they accuse me of being the boss, the crime boss, the godfather.
Sly, I want to ask you, how many cases have you had thrown out successfully since you've really become active as a jailhouse lawyer?
Okay, I've won 166 cases and 5 Supreme Court cases.
Wow.
That's how many I've won thus far within the last 25 years that I was incarcerated. But like I told you, it took me 6 years to learn the law, because the only way I felt that I would ever be free, or that I would ever be able to gain my freedom or cut the sentence down, is that I had to learn the law based on what the guy told me 25 years ago while I was in Leavenworth Federal United States Penitentiary, and this guy was from St. Louis, and he told me the only way you're going to get out on a case like that is you got to learn the law and get yourself out, because no lawyer is going to get you out on a case like that.
So have you helped a lot of people that you've helped that have been severely, unfairly convicted and given overabundance of time?
Yes, I've helped guys that had life sentences. I've won 4 life sentences. I've won cases with guys that had 30 years, guys that had multi-life sentences. I've won 166 cases and 5 Supreme Court cases. And the reason why I was able to win these cases is because I felt that, well, the witnesses that testified against me, a lot of them did not tell the truth. They testified, they went into the federal witness program. I had lawyers. Once I came to prison, I found out that there was a lot of things that the lawyers could have said during the trial that would have helped me that they did not say, or that they did not know to say.
Okay.
And you know, so I studied law. I read law books. I read about judges. I read about lawyers. You know, and I've been studying law and studying law. Every time something new come out, I, you know, try to comprehend it and study it. And, you know, I read books about Supreme Court justices. I read books about great lawyers, you know. And I just stay abreast on it, working on my case as well, trying to get out, because I started out with 5 life terms in 135 years. And, you know, the only way I'm ever get out of prison is that I have to know the law to get out, because nobody else is going to get me out, not even a lawyer. I have to.
This call is from a federal prison.
And so, you know, I'll stay working on the case. And now what I do is I have guys that's in prison, and what I do is I teach law classes within the prison.
Okay.
And so I have a law class here at the prison that I'm on, and I teach the other inmates about law. You know, so that they can help themselves. And I've helped a lot of guys out that had 30 years, 20 years. I helped a lot of guys out that had serious sentences. You know?
Let's start talking about your case again and how certain things happen. What were your thoughts when your trial started and they were transporting you by military helicopter?
Okay, when the feds arrested me, they came on a military helicopter. They strapped me down in the helicopter the same way they strapped Noriega and El Chapo down. They had a machine gun boat on the helicopter. They landed. They took me for about 3 hours. They landed on some private government land. There was like 17 to 23 guys looked like agents. They was lined up. There was another guy standing on the side of him giving him a dissertation. I had a camera in the front of me. I had another camera in the back of me. And as I'm going to the helicopter, military helicopter, I got all these guys that's in military gear standing around the helicopter. And I get on the helicopter, and one of the captain says to me, "I'm Captain such and such." You know, so he was a captain of the helicopter that he was on, or a captain in the army, or wherever he was from. So They take me to Buffalo. When I get to Buffalo, because I done landed the second time. Once I get to a little town outside of Buffalo, it must have been Cheektowaga or something.
Yes.
They got like 17 cars lined up. They put me in one of them. You don't know which one I'm in because they got all these sirens and things like that. And they take me. And when I get downtown, I get ready. About a few months later, I go on trial. Now, once I go on trial, they got FBI by all the bus stops for a 3-mile radius. They got snipers on all the roofs and surrounding areas for a 3-mile radius. They got over 150 U.S. Marshals patrolling the trial. Now, how do I know all this? Because all this is in the transcripts, all this is in the newspaper, and they constantly saying, yo, he's being transported by military vehicles. So what they did is they called in U.S. prosecutors. They had 4 U.S. prosecutors against me. Mr. Hochul, Mr. Endler, a guy by the name of Mr. Stephenson or Stevenson, and some other guy that I don't know. But 2 of these guys was from Washington. They bring in Washington U.S. prosecutors. They call them organized task force prosecutors when they prosecute major cases. Now, even though they accuse me of being a crime boss, and even though they accuse me of consolidating drug gangs and putting them together and, you know, controlling the city and all this type of stuff, it was made up just to get me indicted. It was made up to get me convicted. They gave me more time than they gave Gotti and the Unabomber put together. They gave Gotti 100 years plus life. They gave the Unabomber 3 lives. They gave me, on the federal case, 4 lives in 110 years. They gave me more time than they gave both of them put together. And then they paid the witnesses to testify against me. Like on the state case, they paid the witness, Mr. Wright, $250,000. I never seen the guy before. Then they paid another guy to get his charges dropped. They put them in the federal witness program. It seems like everybody that testified against me, they went in the federal program and they got some benefit. And I just want to be honest with you, Pat. I sold some drugs, but man, I'm not guilty of selling no $1 billion worth of drugs. I'm not guilty of selling all the drugs that they said. I'm not guilty of 11 extortions, 9 kidnappings, multi-hits, controlling this city, that city, you know, being in charge of 11 captains and 3 underbosses. I mean, they blew the case up, man. They made me bigger than life. That's what they did.
Sly, they accuse you of selling 100 keys a month.
They accused me of selling 100 keys a month. When the judge sentenced me, he held me responsible for 100 keys a month for 5 years. That's over $1 billion. You know?
Did they try to prove that, or was it just hype?
They tried to prove it, but it was hype. It was media hype. That's all it was. They tried to prove that, but the judge ended up saying that, yo, I'm giving you 100 keys a month from 1987 all the way to 1992, and gave me 100 keys a month. Accused me of being the boss, and kept saying, oh, if you was going to be a boss, you would have been a good boss of a CEO corporation and things like that. I was never a boss.
You were, they called you the Godfather.
Yeah, they said that I was the black John Gotti of the city, that I was a black crime boss. That's what they accused me. They said that I consolidated the drug gangs and brought them all together and created a commission within the organization. They charged me with saying that I had 11 captains and 3 underbosses on me. Then they said that I had captains in other cities. You know, they blew the case up.
What was the name of the gang that they said you were running?
They said I was running a LA Boys gang. I never heard of no LA Boys gang until they arrested me. I never heard of that. I never heard of anything like that until they arrested me. No such thing ever existed. Then they say I was running an organization called The Family. Then they say I was the crime boss of an organization. So they used various names. You know?
None of this ever proved.
No, this wasn't proven at all. No, that was not proven. I'm just being very honest with you.
Now, when you were forced to see the trial from a video room, they said you blew up in the courtroom. Was that reacting to someone that you didn't know?
The reason why I was Reason why I was taken out of trial and put into a bullpen, and I had to watch it from upstairs in a bullpen, because the trial went on for several months. And the reason why is because I had a girlfriend of mine. Her name was Doris.
This call is from a federal prison.
Her name was Doris Parker. And she got up on the stand and she started saying, he has so much money. I never seen that much money in my life. This is what she's saying. But I don't know she getting me charged with the Super Kingpin Act. I don't know she getting me charged with RICO Enterprise, because those are some of the elements that you get charged with large sums of money. So I jumped up and I said, Your Honor, she's a lying bitch, just like that, because those are the words that came out of my mouth, because she's lying. And I felt that, well, damn, how could you jump up there and say this when everything that I've done for you, I never disrespected you, I never crossed you or done nothing like this for you, and you getting up there and you lying for the government to help get me more time. And so I jumped up, I said that. Then I had another witness, he testifying, and he's saying that, well, this was an organized crime organization, and I jumped up on him. I said, Johnny's lying, because he wasn't around me in order for him to say the things that he was saying. So I became emotionally upset about some of the things that they were saying. Then I had another guy I was close to, and he was accused of being one of the captains of this so-called organization that the government created, and he was up on a stand, and he was testifying, and he was up there smiling like everything was a joke. So I jumped up and I hollered and I screamed on him and threw a water pitcher, because, Pat, I was highly upset, man. I was agitated, man, because they up on the stand, they testifying, and some things that's being said is true, but a lot of things that's being said is not true. So the things that they were saying, some of the things that they were saying that were not true, I reacted to them. I should not have reacted to them like that, but that's how I reacted.
Sly, let me ask you, have you found that some of the people that testified against you were under the employ of the federal government?
Well, some of the people that testified against me, most of them was under the influence of the federal government, and the federal government told them what to say and how to say what they said in order for those charges to stick to me, in order for the elements to meet, in order for the jury to come back with a verdict like they did, to try to prove the elements of a Super Kingpin Act, to try to prove the elements of a RICO Enterprise, to try to prove the elements of a conspiracy. They gave me 4 conspiracies in one case, and put me on top of the indictment and said that I'm involved in 4 conspiracies in one case with 32 co-defendants. That's impossible, man. That was impossible. So no matter if I was innocent of some of the charges or not, they already had it rigged up so that I would get convicted. And so I got kicked out of trial, and when I got kicked out of trial, I had to watch it from a monitor. But I was strapped down in the chair. The judge did let me stay strapped down in the chair, but I jumped up again because another witness started saying things that I just felt wasn't true. And they just kicked me out of trial, and I had to watch the trial from a TV monitor upstairs. It's not that it's just that I was so emotionally upset about how they just got up there and was influenced and manipulated by the government to say the things that they were saying about me, that I reacted in a way that I should have never reacted to.
Sly, we're going to take a short break. Be right back here on a special edition of The Message here with Donald Sly Green.
So that was the interview with Sly Green, you know what I'm saying? Him explaining his side of the story. Now, some things I do agree with Sly Green on, us brothers and sisters getting, maximum charges when we break the law. Not saying me myself, but when people break the law, we seem to get the max when it comes to prison time. That's a fact, you know what I'm saying? But it's more things connected to that, you know what I'm saying? It's more than just that goes with that, you know what I'm saying? But he talks like he's a little angel, and he didn't do these things in the streets, this, that, the third. Now, this podcast episodes for entertainment purposes only. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I don't really know what he was doing at that time, but like I said, you know, people were saying things, you know what I'm saying? His name was ringing bells in the city, and if you're not a big time mover, and if you're not big time doing big time things in the streets, nobody's gonna talk about you. Like, you know what I'm saying? Nobody's gonna talk about you. If you're not doing certain things in the streets is not gonna talk about you. You're a nobody. You know what I'm saying? So he was a somebody in Buffalo, New York, and still to this day, people still talk about him. You know what I'm saying? People are still talking about Sly Green in the city still to this day. And again, you know, it's good that, you know, seems like he turned his life around, you know what I'm saying? And he's helping other people, you know, with his knowledge of the law. And that's very important too, guys. Like, you have to study a little bit of the law. This is why we get hemmed up in these situations, you know what I'm saying? Because we rely on these people called lawyers to look out for our best interests when they're not for your best interest. They all playing, they're all on the same team. Judges, the lawyers, they're all on the same team. So, you know, a lot of times you got to be your own lawyer, you know what I'm saying? And this is why we have to study a little bit of law. This is why we get hemmed up in traffic stops, and we get, you know, shot at traffic stops because you don't know the law. You know what I'm saying? He is a prime example of, you know, realizing that, you know, it's going to take the law for me to possibly have a chance, even a little slight chance of getting out, which I don't think he will get out. He might get a little bit lesser time, but they're not going to let him out, man. Come on, man. They're not going to let him out, man. Know what I mean? What's so crazy is that, you know, these cats will be running the streets and all that, and then they make the youth, they paint this picture of, you know, the streets being this wonderful thing, and you're not working for the man and all this mess, and you're out here doing illegal activity, you know what I'm saying? And they paint this picture for the youth, and that's how a lot of times the youth get caught up in this stuff. And the same thing happened with Sly Green. You know, when he was young, he got caught up in it because of the picture that was painted of that street life. And at the end of the day, the message really in this whole situation is young people, stay out them damn streets, man. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing there for you in them damn streets. Word, there's nothing for you in those streets. You know what's for you in those streets? Death or prison. Life in prison. And then, you know, you end up like Sly Green. With all that money he allegedly made in the streets, what do he have now, man? And that's the real message, man. You know what I'm saying? It's sad because he could have been a CEO of a corporation or the boss of a corporation. You know what I mean? And that's what's so sad, is like a lot of these cats are not stupid. Like these cats are being in the streets and selling drugs and whatever, allegedly selling drugs. Like a lot of these cats are not stupid, man. They are very intelligent people. These are that. Again, some of it has to do with, you know, in the city and the lack of opportunities, man. Because around when he was doing this thing, the Sly Green era, that's when the city started to decline. You know what I'm saying? All the factory jobs and shit like that were gone. You know what I mean? Really wasn't no opportunities. Now it's a little different again with internet. You know, you can get it popping on the internet with consistency and hard work. But, you know, even podcasting as well. But, you know, the street thing, that's a thing of the past. That shit is dead. And nobody should be playing in the streets no more, you know what I mean? But that's what it was like living through the Sly Green era, man. You know what I'm saying? I done seen a lot of crazy stuff, man. A lot of crazy stuff in that era, man. But this should be a message to the young people to stay out from the streets. Either start a business or go to school, man. You know what I'm saying? Or learn a trade. That's all I can tell you, man. Or learn how to, you know, manipulate the internet and get internet money. That's all I can tell you, man. You know what I'm saying? But yo, thank you for everybody for tuning in. Please share this with family and friends. Please follow me if you have Spotify. Please subscribe to me on Spotify, Jupiter 9, baby. But that's my take. I am your gracious host, Jupiter 9. I want to say peace and love to everybody. Take care. 1.